and we have the infamous, famous, amazing Michael MOLLURA. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited you're here. So what's happening? You just got back from New York, right?
Yeah, we just got back from New York, and it went really well. It was really fun. The New York audiences really took to the film very well. I think it's just a phenomenon that seems to be catching on fire wherever it plays. We're really excited.
It is. So first of all, I'm sure there's many people are listening in that may have seen the documentary or not, but if they haven't, the documentary for me is incredible documentary about all the top of the top people like Marianne Williamson, Lipton, we've got Deepak Chopra, Michael Beckwith, all the big names coming together to say, we can heal. We've got a major issue with health across America and across the world. Sure. How would you sum up the movie in just kind of a short, for people that haven't seen the documentary?
Well, I think the film really aims to make it more accessible information about alternative forms to chronic illnesses, terminal diagnosis, things like that are normally extremely scary, and make it more hopeful. Give people more information on what they can do when they get a diagnosis, and to turn people on to alternative medicine approaches and things like that. So I love this movie because it really hits home for me personally, because I love the subject of healing and different approaches to healing. And I love the way the movie really brings in a lot of different components of from traditional medical approaches to interventions, plus the alternative stuff that is now catching on.
What an honor to score the movie, to be involved with these incredible evolved consciousness. And it said, I'll never forget that on there, it says, Marianne Williamson says, not just disease starts in the mind, everything starts in the mind.
Exactly.
So this movie is really a pretty advanced, spiritually, conscious-wise. How do you feel about that? I mean, is this your specific practice? I know you've done many scores. You did Hare Krishna, you did Awake with a yogi. And so what do you feel is, do you think the world is ready for this?
Yeah, I do. I think there's been a big buildup of documentaries that have been calling people into awareness of higher consciousness, and spirituality is becoming a lot more accessible than it used to be. It's not so much like just a new age kind of thing that it used to be, I think, in the 70s and the 80s. And I think today the idea, the practice of alternative integrative medicine is becoming a little bit more of a household conversation. And I think it's exciting, and you can tell just by the people that are being interviewed in a film like this, from Deepak Chopra to Michael Beckwith, and then you have, doctors who are talking about their approaches and things like that. And, to score a film like this was really like a blessing, and I owe that really to Adam Schomer, the producer, who really called me on to do this. And I had worked on other films with Adam before, and it was obvious I was kind of like the go-to composer for a project.
You really are. You've become the go-to. I'm like, really? What a niche you've got, right?
I'm blessed with that. I mean, a lot of my colleagues, they're scoring a lot of horror films and things like that. So I'm like, I'm scoring films that have hope, and have a great message, and are bringing a lot of love out to people. Yeah. So I get really excited about that,
But you're so genius. And so I went down because I knew we were going to have this interview, and I hadn't seen the documentary yet. So I was like, well, I better go at least see it and make sure that I understand everything going on. And I went in there and I was, just soaking in all the great consciousness, all the great quotes, all the great science, everything. And I realized I was about 3/4 way into the movie, and I thought, I haven't even heard them, like I've been so in it that I forgot even to pay attention to the music. And that's, in my opinion, one of the most genius scores there is. And this is completely different score than even like Hare Krishna that you did, completely different. So you're very, very talented.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, this score was very different from the other films I've been doing recently anyway. And that is basically the idea, is to have an unconscious presence while people are watching a movie. You don't want to call too much attention to the music, except for when there's those opportunities. To really take the images to a whole nother level.
That's what it was. It wasn't like, oh, I didn't hear it. It wasn't. It was so. Right. It was just. I was so in the movie that all of a sudden I went, oh yeah, there's music that's separate from what's really going on, and it was, because it really was a holistic even experience of the documentary.
Yeah,
right?
I've been told that. And a lot of people are seeing it like twice and 3 times and 4 times now, and they're like, oh my God, you know, it's like now that when they watch the meditation sequence and things, they're hearing how the music takes it from one space to another space. And so it's an exciting process.
It is very exciting.
Yeah.
So we have obviously tons of mental illness going on in America. We have, I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I know that I think it's 1 in 4 Americans will be diagnosed with cancer. We obviously have huge obesity. About, I think 3/4 of America is overweight, a third is obese. So this is a timely topic.
Exactly.
And I know that your numbers, like the movie's doing well, right?
Yeah, the movie's doing it extraordinarily well. I think surpassing expectations. I mean, it's selling out. I mean, we're selling out. I mean, literally selling out. Like almost every screening. I had friends who even went on Tuesday or Monday afternoon, and it was completely sold out. They thought they were going to be sitting in a movie theater by themselves, and instead they were like in a packed theater on a Monday afternoon. So yeah, there's a lot of heat, a lot of energy around this, and it makes a lot of sense because, I mean, I don't know if everyone is getting this, but it's like you just get this feeling like suddenly the C word, cancer, is like becoming like everyone's got it, like a common cold type of thing. It's like if you don't have cancer, it's like, hey, why don't I have it? You know, or something like that. It's getting so prolific. It's like almost getting ridiculous how many people are getting diagnosed these days. And that's what the film kind of takes, that perspective. I mean, Kelly, who made the film, she made this film because she wants to help her friends and she wants to help people because she's recognizing that everyone she knows is getting diagnosed with one thing or another. And, you know, I mean, something that is also becoming very prolific these days and is becoming an epidemic is like, you know, digestive type of chronic illnesses. You know, so you have situations like, you know, people who are struggling with colitis and Crohn's disease. And so we're learning, we want to know more about nutrition. Now we're going into restaurants and you're seeing that they have specific kind of diets and food for people who are struggling with all these kind of chronic illnesses. So it's really become very, very, very much a common conversation on what to do if you're hit with one of these diagnoses. And I think the beauty of this film is that it's done with a feeling of entertainment. It's film, but at the same time it's informative and it's spiritual. And people have told me that after they've seen the film, they felt like they were bathed with like some light. And so I thought that was beautiful.
Completely,
you know?
absolutely.
I mean, you know.
So much, and I completely agree, and I think it's such a timely thing. So when we come back, what I want, because we have to take a little break, what I want to do is I want to, first of all, I want people to begin to have a conversation of how is disease created and how can we prevent some of it through our mind, through that, and then what do we do if somebody's been diagnosed, you know, what are their options with that? Okay, so when we come back, it's time to talk about that. And then I know you do sound therapy as well, and kind of how in the world would someone, you know, heal through sound? So I want to kind of dive deeper into that, okay? So stay tuned as you get some of the answers to be preventative and to take action, whether it be through Western medicine or through the power of the mind. Stay tuned. Dr. Erin here, Doctor of Divinity, teaching universal laws and spiritual truth. And I am thrilled to announce the new show on Focus Television right here in West Hollywood, Los Angeles, California. Join us weekly as I interview incredible people, celebrities to your next door neighbor, you name it, your girlfriend. We're going to dive into such topics as love and relationships, health and vitality, business and money, and creative expression. And I'm thrilled to just go on this awakening journey with you as we tap into meditation, visioning processes, intuition, and all the above. So stay tuned as we do this together. Okay, we are back with Michael MOLLURA talking about the documentary Heal in West Hollywood at Focus TV Network. And so let's discuss this. You know, what is, so in the movie, and, you know, as a doctor of divinity, I teach completely in alignment with my work, that basically in consciousness, we're so powerful that the moment we assign a negative or positive meaning to something, we instantaneously feel the effects of the emotion, the feeling, and the, you know, health or disease begins right in that instant, right? So in that, you know, the power of going into things like they talk about in the movie about going into the parasympathetic or sympathetic system, and we are bombarded with social media, traffic, just we're constantly in this place where we can't get into relaxation. So I know you, I mean, obviously you did the score in the movie, but you also work through sound therapy. Yeah. So how does that work? How does somebody heal through sound therapy?
Well, basically, I mean, what I do is called music dream therapy, which is where I compose music with patients as a PhD psychotherapist and as a composer. So I work by, first of all, understanding the unconscious and how the unconscious is also playing a role in some of the symptoms that we're seeing out there. What we are talking about is the embodiment of our feelings, our emotions. And what we're also talking about is what causes these symptoms, whatever they may be, whether it's migraines or if it's depression or if it's even cancer and things like that. From the perspective of psychotherapy, which I'm a Jungian, which kind of gives it the perspective of spirit and soul and the unconscious, the collective unconscious, is that we're looking at how stress is generated and how it comes from the unconscious, which is touched in the film a bit. It's this idea that the genesis of most of our symptoms is coming from something that is unresolved, either from the unconscious or even within our lives, right? And so the idea is stress, how to keep down stress, how to deal with stress, how to cope with it. One of the basis theories within this film and the message is that if we can control or deal with our stress on some level, then we might be able to start circumventing ways that we can avoid other illnesses. And one of the things it brings up is meditation, for example. So when we meditate, usually we're vibrating on a different frequency, and we're hearing or listening to soul. We're going deeper into the experience of life. And music does that. That's what music is all about.
Amen.
Music goes beyond the language. So there's something here, at least for me personally, that is about sound and about the gaps between what you're talking about, what I'm talking about, and somewhere where we're going to meet in the middle and creates a new language, which is something that is healing through vibrations and the language of music.
I completely agree. And what's fascinating is the sound is something I just think, I think that people have heard of alternative health, they've heard of juicing, they've heard of whatever, but very rarely do people get the sound, that sound can heal. Like that's probably very new to so many people, and it's so important, your work. I also, one of the great things in the film that I actually used in my book was the 9 common denominators of radical remission, basically, and the science and the research of 3,500 cases of people, you know, having spontaneous remission. Like, it's incredible. So I wanted to read these real quick because they're very important. I wanted to bring value to people. So number 1 was radically change your diet. Number 2 was taking control of your health. Number 3 was following your intuition. Number 4 was using herbs and supplements. Number 5 was releasing surpassed emotions. 6, increasing positive emotions. 7, increasing, what did I do? 6, increasing positive emotions. 7, embracing social support. 8, deepening your spiritual connection. And 9, having a strong reason for living. And so for you in sound, I guess that probably number 8, deepening your spiritual connection would probably fall, I would imagine, for that. So
yeah, that's one way in. We're looking for the way in.
Yeah.
You know, going beyond the external and going into the internal. One thing about music, like John Cage, one of my favorite composers, always talked about, is important that music is a turning inward into the psychological experience of things. And that's why I became really interested in like psychotherapy, for example. It is about going inward and connecting to that part of ourselves which has a certain magic to it. You know, that's the part of ourselves we're not used to dialoguing about.
Right.
You know, the part of ourselves that is made up of cells that reproduce and create bones and veins. And
the intelligence, like just the
Yeah,
intelligence living in us. It's
incredible, right?
incredible, right?
And I mean, you know, and it's like one of my colleagues who's in the film, Jeffrey Thompson, who does sound healing. He does these beautiful, incredible work where he's literally tuning into the consciousness level on a like a sound, like of the sound vibrations.
Yeah, when he takes the 1 gallon, she's laying there on this table, and he's trying to get her into the parasympathetic where she can heal. And every time she gets into that, then she just won't stay there. She just like this response kicks out from her subconscious, and I'm like, whoa, like you can't even relax. Like people, think about it, people can't even sleep at night. That when people have sleeping disorders, and I'm thinking, no wonder they can't heal. They're constantly stressed all the time.
Tremendous amount of resistance. And I think, again, one of the big messages of this film is that we get in the way of our own healing. And I love that message.
Right.
Because I think this is like, everyone's like scared to death of getting an illness, getting diagnosed, and what are you going to do about it? Then it's like, how do I heal? Well, you can begin by getting out of the way, you know, and allowing whatever. The body wants to heal. This is my approach to psychotherapy, quite honestly, which is that the soul wants to heal. The unconscious wants to help in healing. So we look at our dreams, for example, and most of us say, oh my God, my dreams are terrifying. You know, I don't know what to do about them. This is happening and that's happening. And I wake up terrified every single day. And it's like, instead of reacting to the pain and the terror of the dream, let's see how the dream is moving us towards something that's healing.
Completely.
Because that's what those messages are about.
The breakdown for the breakthrough. So when we come back, I want to just talk a little bit more about where people can go, what they can do, how they can get involved in community, how they can find you, how they can, you know, the different modalities of healing, okay? So stay tuned, you guys. Hopefully we'll have some good answers and direction for you to begin your healing of your soul for the loved ones around you, because I know that when we heal ourselves, we heal 7 generations and 7 generations forward from what the spiritual ancestors tell us. So stay tuned as we dive deeper into healing. Hey there, thanks for tuning in to the Dr. Erin Show. I'm thrilled to be here on this journey together. And I wanted to say that if you like, share, and comment this community, it's very important as we go higher together. I also want to invite you to download my app on everything from iTunes to iHeartRadio to Google+. I know right here and right now that each day I want to be in your life for 11 minutes, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There's also 30 guided meditations on there, along with all kinds of goodies. So have a divine day, and may you live your truth. Okay, we are back. This is Dr. Erin talking with Michael MOLLURA about the documentary Heal. And I want to dive deeper into what people can do, because we've been discussing kind of how our beliefs, how our consciousness really begins to create illness. And I believe that there's, you know, anything and everything's possible. Like, could somebody heal a stage 4 cancer with their consciousness? It's possible, but someone would have to have a very, very strong consciousness, right? Sure. So most people probably have not built that strong consciousness. So if they have come to a place where either they're beginning to have some divine signs, some symptoms, or whether they are stage 4, obviously, we always recommend, and I love that in the movie, and when we were talking about this, that Bruce Lipton says, you know, if I get in a car accident, don't send me to a chiropractor. You know, I want to go, or because like if I, you know, get whatever into a huge accident, I lose a limb, don't send me to the chiropractor,
don't
right?
Send me to a massage therapist.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
So in your opinion, so you've been on this set, you've seen all these experts, we've got sound therapy, we've got spiritual people that can begin to heal the trauma. What are some of the modalities that you've seen that you'd recommend for people to go check out?
Well, I think it really depends on what you're working on. and what's coming up. If it's mentally oriented or driven, or if it's physically driven. I mean, again, I think the gatekeeper is usually going to be a primary caretaker, like a doctor, right, of some kind. Now, what's happening right now, which is really interesting, is that now integrative medicine is becoming much more popular. And even regular doctors, my father's a doctor, was a doctor for 55 years, and he has always been a staunch, follower of the medical model. But he now recognizes, and this is what came up when we were in New York, he recognizes that there's now alternative approaches to also working with whatever diagnosis you're dealing with. So it could be anything, but the basic idea here is that it's going to be a combination.
I completely agree.
Of both. And this is what the movie is also suggesting. It's not saying, hey, go spiritual and meditate your problems away and juice it away. No, I mean, Liz, who's working with stage 4 cancer in the movie, she has to go through an entire panel of different interventions before she can get to wherever she's going to end up, right? But she has to try the chemo, and that mixed with juicing, that's kind of like where we're going. So, I mean, the answers here are to always look for that primary caregiver, or someone even like a psychotherapist who has maybe a spiritual background or Jungian background, something like that. People who are knowledgeable of holistic approaches to interventions. I mean, that's where we really, I think it's beginning to go in that direction. It's like when people come to me, they're usually coming with something like bipolar depression or schizophrenia or something like that. Okay, now these are real diagnoses, right? But if the first thing we want to do is stop saying you have anything. First, you want to just meet the person, be where they are. And then you want to try to move in the direction of, well, have you tried yoga? Have you tried meditation? What is your lifestyle like? What is your nutrition like? So you start seeing where their deficits are, and then you kind of move them in different directions and turn them onto it.
I love that. I love how Deepak Chopra in the movie says, listen to the diagnosis, but don't listen to the prognosis.
Exactly.
Right? So anything's possible, no matter where you're at. And also, I love how Bruce Lipton speaks about how they're now, science is showing that we're not necessarily a result of our DNA, how does he say, help me out here, our genes, if you will. But our environment, we are a product of our environment, but guess what? We choose which environment we want to put ourselves in, and we can choose to not have a toxic environment, and we all need to clean it up, no matter if we have cancer or not. We're all responsible for the cancer that's happening to everyone, because it is the choices we're making as a sum total of the collective consciousness. So so important, such incredible work. So where can they find, are there communities? I know that they're showing the documentary at different places. Are there any places, because I think that we need to have somebody in the Q&A down in Santa Monica said, is there anywhere that people can, reach out and find community? And Michael Beckwith said, well, if that's a question for you, then maybe that's your calling to put that together. Somebody, right?
Yeah, that's a good response.
Right.
That's great that he responded that way without just saying, go to Agape,
right.
Which would be an obvious choice for people who live here in Los Angeles. I mean, really, it is about what the calling is. But I think, I mean, where the film shows is a place for, community. One thing I love about these kind of documentaries, these projects, is that we do a lot of private screenings at people's homes, and then you can feel free to reach out to anyone who worked on the film, like myself or Adam, who produced the movie, or Kelly, and all the great healers that are in the film, and ask one of us to show up and maybe talk about it. Have community events that you can create. I mean, that's not available yet. That's
I love that. It's a great
that's
idea.
like in December and on, when I think the film will be coming out in DVD. So that's one way of creating or generating community. It's amazing what's also happening just through all the screenings I've been attending, which is people approaching and people kind of going, oh wow, they're falling in love with each other at, like, you know, the parties or the dinners afterwards, and then they want to have like dinners and say, can we show the film here or can we show the film there? This weekend, we're going to be showing the film at the music hall, the Lemley Music Hall in Beverly Hills. I'll be doing Q&A after the 5 o'clock shows. And again, those are great opportunities to kind of bring up this conversation and share it. But, you know, it's on the healdocumentary.com website. Tells you it's not just about the movie. It's about different approaches to healing, interventions, all the stuff that's coming up in Q&As. That's a nice go-to place. If you're someone who needs help and you're looking for some information, you can always send an email out to the producers of the movie. We're responding to almost everything out there. It is starting a vortex of information.
Good. Well, thank you so much. And then how can they find you for your work for both music and for your psychotherapy?
Okay, yeah, well, you can reach me through my my websites. I have two. One is michaelmollura.com, which is for psychotherapy work and dream music work. And then I have michaelmolluramusic.com, which is all my film scores. And that's a great way.
He's the man. He is the man. Every single documentary I've seen that is consciousness driven seems to be your name's plastered all over it. So thank you so much for all your time. Thank you so much for all your divine work. And I just want to say, you guys, if you're out there, if you are wanting to get involved, I think reach out to your holistic doctors, reach out to your spiritual centers, reach out to community. It's the most important thing. And get involved, go check out the documentary, and know that there's a power within each and every one of us, that we get to awaken to these divine signs, these symptoms of disease, which are really the wake-up call for all of us to come together and live in alignment with Mother Nature and universal law and living with love. So you guys have a wonderful day, and may you live your truth.